The Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator search is down the home stretch here. So today we're going to be breaking down the latest updates on the Steelers OC search. Going to let you know which guys have been interviewing, which guys are the favorites, and all that great stuff. But before we get into today's update, make sure you guys click that subscribe button because whenever they make this hire, whoever they hire, we are going to be going live on the channel. So if you want to know a scheme breakdown, how this affects the offseason strategy, the whole 9 yards. When the Steelers make a hire for their next offensive coordinator, we are going to be going live. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now. And with that, let's get into today's show. So let's start today's program with a couple of guys that will not be the next offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers, starting with former Los Angeles Rams quarterbacks coach Zac Robinson, who was hired as the Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator after his former colleague there in LA, Raheem Morris, hired him as his offensive coordinator this weekend. And then also Cliff Kingsbury, the USC quarterbacks coach. It was reported that he was going to interview for the Steelers. Turns out that was bad reporting, and the Steelers are not interested in Cliff Kingsbury for their offensive coordinator position. Now, the three guys that are still viable for the Pittsburgh Steelers that have interviewed and could still get the job to this point, ex-Atlanta Falcons head coach Arthur Smith interviewed on Sunday. Thomas Brown was the first one to interview back last week. He's the former Carolina Panthers offensive coordinator. And then Jerrod Johnson, the current Houston Texans quarterback coach, also interviewed this weekend. So those are the three guys that the Steelers have talked to and have interviewed to this point in the process. Now, the big question for the Pittsburgh Steelers here throughout the rest of this search is whether or not they're going to wait till after the Super Bowl to interview guys like Klint Kubiak, Brian Griese, and Chris Forster for their open offensive coordinator position because, of course, they're all with the San Francisco 49ers. And unfortunately for the Steelers, they made the Super Bowl, so you're not able to interview any of them until their season is officially over. So if they want somebody from the San Francisco 49ers staff, they're going to have to wait 2 more weeks just to interview these guys. And listen, the way that I'm looking at this right now is that if the Steelers wait, that means it's going to be somebody on the San Francisco 49ers because the only reason why you'd wait that long is if you absolutely want somebody on that staff. And really, I think the favorite on that staff to be the next Pittsburgh Steelers offensive coordinator is Klint Kubiak. Now, I think that there's going to be a couple of teams that might wait till after the Super Bowl to hire their next offensive coordinator. The Raiders are one of those teams. A couple different teams might wait to try and get Kubiak's services. So waiting could end up being a little bit of a risk for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I definitely think that if Pittsburgh decides to wait these next 2 weeks to interview these guys, I think it's probably going to be Gary Kubiak is the guy that they're going to be hunting. Now, what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Should the Pittsburgh Steelers wait until after the Super Bowl to hire their next offensive coordinator? Type yes or type no for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here at some point during this video. When that happens, take advantage of that time by giving me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. So now let's talk about the guy that many people are talking about as the potential favorite to land to the position, especially if the Steelers aren't going to wait for the San Francisco 49ers guys, and that is former Falcons head coach Arthur Smith. And right now I do think that he is the favorite. I would expect that if the Steelers make a hire this week, it's probably going to be Arthur Smith. He's a culture fit, all these different things. He would bring in Mike Munchak, a legendary offensive line coach, which would be fantastic as well. Apparently, they are a package deal. Now, you look at the offense for the Atlanta Falcons under Arthur Smith last year, and you can see why some Steelers fans are pretty upset that he is the favorite to be the offensive coordinator to this point. So you look at the points per game, 26th in the league. Now, this offense actually moved the football pretty decently. They're about league average in the yards per game, yards per play category. Same thing with third down offense. But what really killed them this year was the red zone efficiency, 30th in the league at just 46.8 of their red zone trips converting into touchdowns. And then also the giveaways was kind of a killer for them as well. However, you look back to Arthur Smith's best season as an offensive play caller there with the Tennessee Titans. Again, remember, in 2019, he led the Titans to the AFC Championship game with Ryan Tannehill as their quarterback. And then they come back the next year, and they're the #1 seed in the AFC with a bona fide top 5 offense in the National Football League with Ryan freaking Tannehill as their starting quarterback. So this is definitely an offense with Arthur Smith that with the right personnel can 100% work. But the big question for me that I'm going to answer coming up here after our sponsor read here is whether or not Arthur Smith is a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers and the personnel that they have right now. I'll answer that question here in just a second. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. And if you want to spice up your Super Bowl viewing experience this year, it's not going to get any better than Prize Picks, because Prize Picks is a skill-based, real money daily fantasy sports game. And if you're wondering how daily fantasy sports work, here's how. You pick 2 to 6 players. If they'll go for more or less than their Prize Picks projection, you can even win up to 25 times your money on any entry. So let's take a look at my entry here for Super Bowl 58. I'm an optimist, guys, so I'll take the more on Christian McCaffrey rush yards. I'll take the more on Travis Kelce receiving yards, and I'll take the more on George Kittle receiving yards as well. You can get your picks in now and check it out at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. With Prize Picks, it takes less than 60 seconds to make your picks. So get started right now. Get your picks in before the 49ers play the Chiefs there in Vegas in a couple of weeks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. So let's go over Arthur Smith's offense and what he likes to do, because he definitely has his system. All right, so first thing that you need to know, it is very much an outside zone heavy run scheme, all right? So they love to do that. So it's the same stuff that you see with the Kyle Shanahan offense, Sean McVay. True West Coast system here that runs majority outside zone run scheme. Really does a good job at getting guys on the move, creating cutback lanes for his running backs. Number 2, lots of pre-snap motion. This has been a staple of his ever since he was back in Tennessee. He likes to use motion to really create advantageous matchups for his wide receivers in the pass game as well, and then also to create advantageous numbers in the run game as well. Really uses motion to an effective rate. Then, number 3, likes to use heavy personnel. So he likes to put 2 tight ends on the field. He likes to have 2 running backs. So he usually likes a running back and a fullback, all right? So he likes to have lots of people on the field, likes to have that versatility between the run and pass, and really try to get the opposing defense into their heavier packages so that their speed receivers can run away more easily in the passing game. And honestly, I think that Connor Hayward, who's played tight end here in Pittsburgh over the last several years, would be a perfect fullback in Arthur Smith's offense. I think that he's a really good route runner for somebody at that position. I think he's a good enough blocker to be a good blocker in this run scheme. I really do think Connor Hayward would be used to an effective rate here as a fullback in Arthur Smith's offense, and I think he could be a Kyle Juszczyk, Alex Ingold type of fullback, one of the best in the business if he ends up making that transition to fullback. Number 4 on the list of Smith's offensive staples here is that he likes to keep everything in tight formations. Now, he will do some spread stuff on 3rd and long, etc., but on early downs, he likes to get all 11 players close, or as close as possible. So this is his number 1 formation here. It's called ace close, where you've got 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, and a running back on there. Everything close to the line of scrimmage, and what he really likes is everybody able to block for the running back. So he likes bigger wide receivers that are able to block. He likes having tight ends that can be both good in the receiving game and as in the blocking game as well. So you're going to see a lot of this if Arthur Smith is the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then number 5 here is that in the passing game, he likes to attack the middle of the field with play action off of that outside zone. So he likes to do these things called drift concepts, where he likes to do hard play action, and then he likes to put in a wide receiver right behind the sinking linebackers to create space over the middle of the field. It's his favorite pass concept, and this is really the thing that made A.J. Brown in the earlier years of his career. He had incredible production in this offense, and honestly, I think George Pickens would be excellent in that A.J. Brown role, taking advantage of those sinking linebackers against this really good run scheme. So the pros of Arthur Smith's offense here is that it's really, really quarterback friendly. So of course, it really prioritizes the run and play action, which creates space and lanes in the passing game. The reads are super easy to follow. In terms of what Kenny Pickett needs, I think this offense is exactly what he needs. It's simplified. The reads are very simple. He's not going to be asked to go through a full field progression every single play. And at the end of the day, the run game is going to be really, really good. So I like this system for Kenny Pickett and his development. Number 2, it keeps the defense kind of on their toes a little bit. It keeps them in the dark because they only run a couple of formations, and they run a bunch of stuff from those formations. So there's that. And then also you can dominate with the right guys. That showed with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown there in Tennessee. And could Najee Harris and George Pickens replicate that same kind of dominance that they had even with a guy like Ryan Tannehill? I guess we'll have to see in the future if they make this hire. Now, the cons of this system and bringing in Arthur Smith. Number 1, he runs what he runs. He doesn't really make mid-season or even mid-game adjustments. He kind of runs his system, and if it's not working, then he kind of just sticks with it and hopes that the team can continue to develop in that system throughout the year. Number 2, the drop-back passing game is definitely not Arthur Smith's strength. If you go down by double digits or if you go down by at least 2 scores, it's going to be tough for this offense to be able to really get in shotgun and come back and make those big-time comebacks because this offense really isn't built to do that. And then number 3, I'm not even sure that that the personnel here in Pittsburgh really fits what Arthur would want to do here. I mean, Deontay Johnson's a pretty small receiver. I don't know how well he fits in this offense that really requires all 11 players to be able to block. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see what the Pittsburgh Steelers decide to do here. So the players that I think fit this system really well, Kenny Pickett, I think, it gets him on the run. It's simplified reads. I think this is a really good system for him and his development. Also, George Pickens, I think, would fit beautifully into that A.J. Brown role in this offense. I think he can run after the catch. I think he's physical at the catch point. Exactly what Arthur Smith likes in that role. Then Najee Harris. I mean, I don't think anyone's claiming that he is a Derrick Henry type of running back right now, but he's a good running back in the similar mold of a Derrick Henry. So maybe this is exactly the type of offense that can take him to the next level. Jaylen Warren, this offense really does reward these types of running backs that can make quick cuts and find cutback lanes, and Jaylen Warren is perfect for this system in my opinion. And Connor Hayward moving from tight end to fullback I think would be absolutely fantastic for his career and would solidify him as one of the best fullbacks in the National Football League. But in terms of the guys that don't fit this system as much, Deontay Johnson, Pat Freiermuth, and Calvin Austin III, because none of them are particularly good blockers. And Arthur Smith really wants his receivers and tight ends to be able to block effectively in the run game. And I just think that if Arthur Smith is brought in here, you might be hearing some rumors about Deontay Johnson getting traded, Pat Freiermuth even maybe getting traded. I think things will start to get pretty interesting here if Arthur Smith is, in fact, the next OC of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, my take on Arthur Smith is that you could probably do better than him. I'd rather have a Klint Kubiak. I'd rather have a Brian Greasy. I'd rather have a Chris Forster even from the San Francisco 49ers. But you could do a lot worse than Arthur Smith. And at the end of the day, if the number one priority is to try to get the most out of Kenny Pickett, I think this system is perfect for him because it's simple. He's not going to be forced to do these full field progression reads that he struggled with these first couple of years in his career. It really simplifies the game for him. It really prioritizes the run game. It gets him on the run. It gets him some nice, easy throwing lanes and play action. So if the number one priority here is to get Kenny Pickett going, I think this offense is a pretty darn good fit. Now, let me know down there in the comment section, what grade would you give a potential Arthur Smith hiring as the next offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers? Give me an A, a B, a C, a D, or an F down there in the comment section. So in other coaching news here, the Steelers did interview Houston Texans quarterback coach Jerrod Johnson for their open OC position. But the thing about this, guys, is that Mark Kaboly, the Athletics Pittsburgh Steelers reporter, has said that both Thomas Brown and Jerrod Johnson, although they interviewed, they are not serious candidates for the job. Now, of course, Kaboly said there was no way Mason Rudolph was going to come back for the 2023 season. Of course, he did. So who knows if you can trust the reporting of Kaboly here. But at the end of the day, I do not think Brown and Johnson are really the top flight candidates that they're really expecting to hire. However, I will say that there's a chance that the Steelers end up hiring Thomas Brown, the former offensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers. If you're looking for a dark horse to get the position, when I listen to Thomas Brown talk, he sounds just like Mike Tomlin. And I mean, it sounds like that he had a really good interview. So it seems to me Like, if there's going to be someone that kind of surprisingly wins this job, it's going to be somebody like Thomas Brown, who really had a good interview, connects with Mike Tomlin on a personal level, and ends up getting the position. So at this point, I do think Arthur Smith is the favorite. I would have Thomas Brown as the dark horse, and then if the Steelers don't make a hire this week, I would say it's probably going to be somebody on the San Francisco 49ers. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Out of the 3 guys that the Steelers have interviewed to this point, which one would you hire? Type AS for Arthur Smith, TB for Thomas Brown, or JJ for Jerrod Johnson. All right, so that's going to be it for today's show, guys. Thank you so much for all of your support. Make sure you go give me a follow on Twitter if you haven't already. You'll get a shout-out on a future edition of Steelers Talk. So here are today's shout-outs. Shout-out to Joe, Newark Baby, Third Coast Gorilla Bulls, Omar Khan, Harry Wang, Jamie, Dernoli, Roe Hustle, Rick Davis, and George Robinson. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. Make sure you go give me a follow at Jack_Sperry for a shout-out on a future edition of Steelers Talk. And make sure you click that subscribe button, because whenever the Steelers make this OC hiring, we're going to be going live. You're not going to want to miss it. So do me a favor. Click that subscribe button right now.